Welcome to Exxon Photography and welcome to the Canon R5 JPEG review. We will take a look at the Canon R5 and I right now only have JPEG files here, all in black and white. And what I did is I went one day with the R5 to Hamburg and photographed the city. I photographed the buildings and the cars. Hamburg has always nice cars, but I always photograph people on the streets. So let me just show you how it looks like. So here come two girls. And I just talk to them and then I photograph them right where I meet them. So I talk to them right here. So here I will photograph them. And we will take a look at the JPEG files. But before that, I thought, let me show you actually how I took these images so you have some reference. So let me show you one or two more. So not everybody that I talk to actually says yes, but many actually do. So I photograph people on the streets and I also photograph myself. So I have the Canon R5 here and took some self-portraits. And I always try to use open aperture f1.2 with the 85 or f1.4 with the 24mm. I had three lenses, 20mm 2.8, 24mm 1.4, 85mm 1.2, and most of the shots are taken at 1.2 with the 85mm. So here you see the images straight in the camera. We will take a look at these images in this photo mechanic where we can judge the images much better. And let me show you one or two more shooting situations. So here's another couple that I approached. So this kind of photography, I actually do it as a business. So the people I photograph people on the streets in a 3-minute photo shoot right where I meet them, and they can buy the images afterwards, and I can this way control my income pretty independent from anything external. I decide how many people I talk to. That will define. So the number of people I talk to will define how many people will actually say yes. Not everybody says yes. And that will define how much money I can make on a day. And let's now go into the images because I want to show you the images. There will be another video where you actually see the photo shoots. So this is the first day with the Canon R5 and I had the 85 1.2L lens with me. And I shot mostly at f1.2. Not always, but mostly. And the R5 handles pretty well. I only took pictures on that day. I didn't film. So we will not look at video. We will not look at 8K. If you are interested in using 8K and how that performs, I highly recommend EOShd.com. It's a blog by Andrew Reed. He's the one who is always interested in technology and cinematography. And he's a crazy dude that will tell you everything about the overheating issue and that it's not an overheating issue. It's not temperature. It's actually programmed. It's a timer. And if you hear anything on YouTube by other YouTubers about the overheating thing, probably they got it from him. So they probably got it from his blog. So here you see the settings right here. We have the Canon EOS R5. We have 85mm, ISO 100, aperture 1.2, shutter 1/2000, 45 megapixel. And I want to show you the images straight from the camera. So none of these images are edited. This is what comes straight from the camera. I take the picture with this in my hand, push the button, camera takes a picture. I have the RP in my hand just as an accessory, like the sunglasses. It's just an accessory. I'm not actually taking pictures here with the camera. I just want something in my hands. No, this is my selection of shots. And I also want to show you some of the shots that I missed where not me was in focus, but someone in the background. And now this happened a bit on that day. So you see here is the background in focus and the next shot I am in focus. So it goes pretty quickly right where it should be, but there are moments when not always the right person is in focus. But it's totally fine. We're looking at f1.2. I have sunglasses on. I don't actually look into the camera directly here. and the camera still catches me. Now I use the RP and the 6D Mark II, and I'd say they all have kind of the same autofocus system. I know the R5 now has the dual pixel AF version 2 with the animal AF, but when I look at the shots, I mean, here I'm not in focus. I'd say from my user experience, the camera's in focus, but not me. I'd say from my user experience, the 6D Mark II has the same autofocus with this kind of photography than the R5, as well as the RP and the R. In my user experience, not talking about science, I'm just talking, I've taken many shots with the 6D Mark II, maybe 600,000 shots, over 100,000 with the RP, also used the Canon EOS R, and the R5 handles kind of the same way, which is beautiful. You can shoot at f1.2, f1.4 all the time. This is now the 24mm lens. You can shoot open aperture all the time with the dual pixel AF. Now here's the 20mm lens and the 85. And the 85 is just such a beautiful lens in terms of compression, blurry background. Here we got the two girls, and you see nice autofocus. The girls don't need to be looking at me. I'm shooting at f1.2, no problem. Of course, when you got two people and they don't stand right in front of the line, sometimes one is in focus, the other is not, but you see, I think there are some beautiful shots. I don't need to edit these shots. I can leave them as they are. And here again, we got some shots that are out of focus, but it's totally fine. In general, that weekend, it was last weekend, I had two cameras. This day I used the EOS R5, and the next day I used the Leica M10 with the 35 1.4 Summilux lens. Both two incredible cameras, both very different. The Canon R5 is kind of the best that technology has to offer. You can shoot at f1.2, you can zoom in incredibly well, you got all the details, it's 45 megapixel, you can print pretty big, easy peasy. There's never ever going to be a problem ever again with autofocus at f1.2. The Leica M is a manual focus lens only, a manual focus camera only, so there is no autofocus at all. And I did a video, the video that I'm doing right now, I did the same with the Leica camera, and I also shot the Leica in black and white. So if you want to see how that looks like, take a look at my channel. These two videos will be uploaded kind of within the same week, so it should be before this video or after this video. Now here we got the 20mm lens. Let's take a look at this, if I'm right. 20mm f2.8. It's a beautiful lens. I got this for 200 euros on eBay. It's no longer produced, it's an old lens, but it's a beautiful lens. I love the 20mm 2.8. It's light, it's cheap, it's f2.8. It's really a beautiful piece of glass, and you wouldn't use a 20mm that often for portraits, although I got some really great shots with it, and I bring this now to weddings quite often instead of the 24 1.4, which is way more expensive, but the 20mm is just wider and gives me therefore a different perspective. Okay, let me just get in the other frame. So here I took some images of myself. I started a project 2 years ago with the 6D Mark II and then the RP where I photographed myself. So I have something in my hand here, a remote control, and when I push on it, the camera takes a picture. Autofocus should be taken care of by the camera. I mostly shoot wide open. This is 24 1.4, and you see this thing is already blurred out while I am in focus, and this with a wide angle lens. A 24mm is a really beautiful lens. The 1.4 one, it's a really there are some lenses that are not used that often for portraits, and 24mm I prefer over the 35 1.4, which I also have from the Sigma Art lens. Here I went with the 85 1.2. I make this video to show you how do the images look straight from the camera. I set the camera to the picture style to monochrome. I put the contrast up and the sharpness, and this is how the images look like then. I shoot everything in manual. I never use auto. There's no auto white balance, there's no auto ISO, there's no auto shutter speed, nothing auto, because then the images probably might be too dark or too bright. And in manual it's super easy to set the camera. If you have problems setting your camera, even older cameras, you can find in the description my ebook Master Your Camera. It's about €8, and you can learn how to set up your camera for great images straight in camera, no matter which camera you have. These images, they look the same if I use the R5 or the Canon RP, or when you take a look at the Leica M10 or any Fuji camera. There is no big difference in the look. Now when you go into details and sharpness and zoom in, you got some differences. Of course we got 45 megapixel, but just the look, they all kind of look the same. Now again, 85mm. I talked to this couple on the streets and photographed them right where I meet them, and I always focus on giving joy to others. My job, I see myself as a minister of photography, kind of. And a minister, the word means servant. So can I be of servant to someone with my camera? So I walk around town and look for somebody who I may think may appreciate the images that I can take for them. So I saw these two. I saw they were tourists. I talked to them. I said, I can take some pictures of you. Usually the pictures then buy the images. Now think about all these images in color and black and white. How much would the couple probably pay for the download link with the high resolution? And I try to do 15 shootings a day, so I can control my income by controlling the numbers. How many people do I talk to? That defines how many people will say yes, be photographed by me, and then they can buy the images. Now this weekend I did everything for free. I said everybody I photograph, I sent them all the images for free, because I love photography so much. It's not just my job, it's much more. It's my career, it's my passion, it's what I will be known for, and I don't want it to be just a job. I don't want it just to make money with it. I want to invest in it. I invest into photography. It's very important that I don't just make money with it and get from it. I want to invest in it. It's a very different philosophy. The more I put in it, I know the more important it becomes, and also one day the more I will get out of it. But the getting out of it is not about the money, it's about the emotion that I get. When I do a photo shoot like this for free with a couple that I just talked to on the streets, I get rewards on an emotional level that is so deeper for me and so more important than the financial reward. Now when I photograph a couple like this, they can buy the images for a couple of euros, or they can buy all images with a package price for around 40 or 50 euros. And I always do 15 shootings a day when I do this to make money. So I have always a 600 euro level of income when everybody buys all images. Now, not everybody buys all images always, but look at this couple now. All these images here in color and black and white and full resolution for 50 euros as a download link. And not everybody buys all images. Some buy just some images, some want all. This is Martin. He was with me to film me. So I will make another video where you see me walking around. You see me talk to these people. We met these two girls again, just here in the new part of the town. And this time I used a 24mm lens to photograph them. She was just finishing her last master study. You see, autofocus is not always in phase and IAF, but mostly it is. And so they were celebrating. They were also tourists. Hamburg is full of tourists on the weekends, which is a beautiful thing to photograph. I mean, when you are in a new place, you'd love to have some nice photos of you and your best friend together. And me as a servant of photography, I can deliver that. And when I do it for free, it means even more. I left these images where the autofocus went off. I left them in to show you that there are moments when the autofocus just is somewhere. But in general, the autofocus is incredible. But I don't, from my user experience, from real life, from weddings and from street shootings, you will find 500 videos on this channel just about photographing people on the streets. In 8 countries: Italy, Greece, Spain, Netherlands, Germany, UK, and some others. And I think that the 6D Mark II, which is my camera of choice, is as good as the R5 for this kind of photography. You see this also not in focus. I want to give you a real world user experience. That's why I also show you the images that are not in focus. Now, the thing with this camera is it is a phenomenal joy to use. I mean, it has 45 megapixel, and the speed is so great. When I take these pictures of people and they are, they're laughing and smiling, I take many pictures. Sometimes the camera can take up to 20 pictures or 12 pictures per second. I set the camera lower, maybe 6 or 7 images per second or so. I don't need 12 or 20 images per second. I need 5. So we got 5 to 7 images per second, and the buffer was never full. I could shoot many images and the buffer was never full. This is also autofocus. And with 45 megapixel, other camera, the Leica M10 the next day only had 24 megapixel, and the buffer got full, and I took less images, way less images than with the Canon. So the camera, the Leica, did stop. A couple of weeks ago, I went out to the same, at the same place actually here also, and I photographed with the Fuji X100V, the newest one, and the buffer was so bad that with every single photo shoot I did on the streets, every time the camera actually was too slow to write the images to the card, and with every single photo shoot I did on the street, even if it's just a couple of minutes long, I had to wait for the camera. So the feeling I had when using the R5 is super quick, is right there, is an athlete. The R5 felt like an athlete. I didn't feel it had 45 megapixel, and you can zoom in and print pretty large. I said in the beginning I also have the Canon 5DSR, which is a 50 megapixel camera, and the files are phenomenal. So beautiful files from the 5DSR. The Canon 5DSR got crushed in reviews for dynamic range and ISO performance, but actually looking at the files from the 5DSR is one of the most beautiful files I have from any camera. Just a side note. So we got a lot of potential here with these images. We can print them pretty large. You can use them advertisement, print them, put them on the wall, in front of in a store. And I'm shooting at f1.8 85. So this is a pretty fast camera. It felt really, really well. I didn't shoot 8K just because I'm a photographer. I love photography, and I couldn't do both. I was thinking about filming, filming just a couple of minutes, but I just stick to photography, and I think for me it's the right thing. If you want to hear anything about video, you have to look elsewhere. But for me, you can find the photography side of it. What can you get from it? Now, I said I used the 85mm 1.2 lens. I used the EF version. It's not the RF. It's not the new one. It's the old one. With the really great bokeh, and you see the images. This is unedited, straight from the camera, nothing done to it. This is what comes out of the camera with the lens. And the images, they look the same like my Canon 6D Mark II or RP. The files are literally, just looking on the screen, they are the same. But the R5 with the 45 megapixel give you a lot of more headroom when you want to print big or want to do commercial work. To me, resolution doesn't matter. 45 megapixel is way too much for me. I usually shoot weddings, or I photograph people, often on the streets like we do here. That is way too much megapixel for for what I'm doing. Also for weddings, it's way too much. We're at the end of the first folder. I have 3 folders, but I think it's the biggest folder here. So this is my user experience, and in this video I only wanted to show you the images unedited, straight from the camera in JPEG. Now the greatest thing about the camera, which was totally weird, was the sound of the shutter. It's totally weird that I named this. I did not expect it, but the shutter, which means the sound when you take a picture, the shutter sounds so nice. Every time I use the shutter, I said, man, this is such a nice sound. I want to use it more. I want to take more pictures just for the sound of it. I thought this is what a Leica sounds like, probably. Because with the Leica, people also talk about the shutter sound. Well, the next day I had a Leica M10, and I didn't realize the shutter at all. I didn't have any feeling about the shutter at all. But the most beautiful thing about the R5 that I felt during my shooting with it, the user experience, that was the shutter. That is a beautiful sound. The most beautiful shutter that I've ever heard. Besides the Hasselblad digital medium format, I have one here. Let me just put it on. Let's just put it. Let me show you. Let me just. I mean, we're done with this video, but just at the end of it, let me just. Here now you hear a digital medium format Hasselblad H3D $31,000 camera. This is how it sounds like. And here every single frame sounds important. This is like a muscle car. But besides of these Hasselblad H cameras, I think the R5 has the most beautiful shutter that I've ever heard. And it made me want to use the camera and gave me such a great feeling. You see the images, this is what comes out of it with the EF adapter and the 85 1.2 lens. I got more images on the other cars. This is just one card, and you will find the videos how I talk to the people and how I photograph in one of the next videos. Thank you very much. And now up to the German version.
Yeah, I don't ask for nothing but the sunshine. The race is going one day to blind my eyes, and birds fly around like you should move from wind, fly until they find the place where you have been. Ask for the direction and it's back in time. The workaholics they will say you died, but knowing you'd come back, children await you. She woven them doors to make them faithful. Nightmares vanish, dreams come true. It's what they say every time they're seeing you. Time starts to tick, air starts to breathe. I wonder what means the day to me. I never thought about waking up in dreams. Never thought about being me. I never thought about just breaking it up. I'm breaking it stuff, I'm breaking it up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and take me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up. In the world are going to work like them beggars, don't take your hands remaining in dirt, and you melt them snow, let them trees grow tall and the seasons go by while you won't leave at all. You're the hope and the strength they'll let her wake up to reach, and one life to spend. You count our days, you count our time. Till then it's you from the tummy we are born in until the day we end. Can't be bought, can't be taken. Give us light that guide us through our happy ending, and each second we're living and each breath we are breathing is cause of you. But they cause you're not leaving, and if you come back just some hours later, the first thing I see in the morning when I wake up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and take me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up. Whoa, it's like another day's born, but I'm sadly dying. People pass my so long, it's now lasting a while. Did I finally look bright and just open my eyes? Touch you my guys in disguise. Damn if you needn't, where's Christ? I'm a sleepwalker, walking the day when I'm sleeping. Don't know for sure if it's me that is breathing, that is leaving static core. I'm looking for a solution, life's an illusion. I need to feel it there and keep pushing. I'm
Another
losing.
day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and wake me up.
Another day is born.
Come and take me up.
Another day
living more than just life and above the dream.
You and me,
Build up the love for lifetime, we're above the skyline, angels fly beside us.
you and me,
Went from boy and girl to wife and husband, finally life became
you
fantastic.
and me.
The lovers couples can meth with, take love like addicts. Without you I panic, without you I couldn't handle this stuff in my heart. Cause I had to separate those who fuck and who love. Cause most smiles ain't real, last words get lost. And you have found the love I want and it's worth all costs.
You and me,
Like the king and queen, living more than just life and above the dream.
you and me,
Like the prince and the princess, and we love each other even though we've been dressed.
you and me,
Like the husband and the wife, making life so precious without money, but a child.
you and me.
The lovers couples can meth with, take love like addicts. Without you I'll panic.
The king for my kingdom, the prince for my bed. This is what I found in you. The father for my child, the boy in my past is you.
Alright, now close my eyes and remember you. When you're gone I have to depend on you. So when you leave I'm left with just some of your pictures, but I can't talk to them, neither squeeze them like I did you. I'm the baby, you're my mother beside me. Protect me at night, even in my dreams you guide me. Life was nothing until you gave sense to it, and as long as we're together there's no end to it. Now I love you. From the bottom of my heart I say I love you. From the bottom of my,
You and me,
like the king and the queen, living more than just life and above the dream.
you and me,
Like the prince and the princess, and we love each other even though we've been
you
dressed.
and me,
Like the husband and the wife, making life so precious without money, but a child.
you and me.
Like the boy and the girl, live and enjoy the new world, and nothing else first but you.
I love you, I love you, I love you, love you, I love you, I love you. The king for my kingdom, the prince for my bed. This is what I found in you. The father for my child, the boy in my past is you.
When we got ourselves here, the world don't matter. Doing work on leisure without a goal, there's no pleasure.
I love you from the bottom of my
Go from life till death, until the time will rest. I'll be forever hanging at your chest.
I love you from the bottom of my heart. You and me,
Like the king and the queen, living more than just life and above the dream.
you and me,
Like the prince and the princess, and we love each other even though we've been
you
dressed.
and me.
Like the husband and the wife, making life so precious.